Have you ever felt a subtle shift inside when someone else shines? That faint, almost imperceptible tremor of resentment, quickly masked, even from yourself. It's a feeling as ancient as humanity, often disavowed, yet deeply etched into our very nature. We're about to embark on a journey into one of the most enigmatic human emotions, hidden envy. This isn't the loud, obvious kind that declares itself, but rather a quiet, watchful sentiment, lived internally, often disguised. To truly understand its elusive dance, we'll turn to the wild, observing a creature whose very essence mirrors this concealed human behavior. Prepare to see yourself and others through the eyes of the cautious, silent wildcat, and discover the surprising parallels between its instincts and our own hidden hearts. We've all been there, whether we admit it or not. That pang, that subtle discomfort, when someone else announces a promotion, a dream vacation, or a new relationship, is not outright jealousy, not the kind that makes you lash out or gossip maliciously. Instead, it's a more insidious silent visitor, hidden envy. This emotion doesn't often wear its true face. It prefers a disguise, often masquerading as admiration, indifference, or even slight discomfort. Think about it. Have you ever praised a friend's new car, all the while a quiet thought whispers, "Why them and not me?" Or scrolled through social media, seeing someone else's seemingly perfect life, and felt a subtle tightening in your chest, quickly dismissed with a shrug? That's hidden envy at play. It's the feeling of wanting what another possesses, not necessarily wanting to take it from them, but wishing you had it, or perhaps even wishing they didn't. This isn't about being a bad person. Hidden envy is a deeply human experience, rooted in our innate tendency to compare ourselves to others. From childhood, we're taught to strive, to achieve, to measure our progress against a perceived standard. When someone else's success highlights what we perceive as our own shortcomings, or simply reminds us of a desire unfulfilled, hidden envy can silently creep in. It manifests in countless subtle ways. Perhaps you find yourself subtly downplaying someone's achievement after praising it aloud. Or maybe you're quick to point out the potential downsides of their good fortune, almost as if to balance the scales in your mind. It can show up as a quiet reluctance to fully celebrate another's joy, a fleeting moment where genuine happiness for them feels just out of reach. We might even find ourselves avoiding conversations about their successes, not out of malice, but because it stirs this uncomfortable, unacknowledged feeling within us. The danger of hidden envy lies in its very hiddenness. Because it's often unacknowledged, it festers. It can subtly erode self-esteem, breed resentment, and even hinder our own progress as we become more focused on what others have than on what we can achieve. It's an internal battle, fought in the quiet corners of our minds, a constant, low-level hum of if only. Understanding this subtle, pervasive emotion is the first step towards truly mastering our inner landscape. To truly grasp the subtle dynamics of hidden envy, we turn our gaze to a creature of unparalleled stealth and observation, the wildcat. This isn't the cuddly domestic companion that purrs on your lap. This is its untamed, ancient cousin, a master of its domain, existing on the silent fringes of human perception. Imagine it, a sleek, muscular form often mottled or striped with intricate patterns that blend seamlessly with its environment. Be it the dense undergrowth of a European forest, the sun-baked rocks of an African savanna, or the vast, undulating grasslands of Asia. These aren't creatures that announce their presence with a roar or a display of overt dominance. They are the very embodiment of quiet power, a living shadow in the landscape. Wildcats, regardless of their specific species, from the robust European wildcat with its bushy tail to the more slender African wildcat, believed to be the ancestor of our house cats, or the elusive, sand-colored Asian wildcat, share fundamental traits that make them perfect metaphors for our subject. They are overwhelmingly solitary hunters, relying on their incredibly acute senses. Keen eyesight especially adapted for low light, exceptional hearing that can pinpoint the slightest rustle, and a powerful sense of smell. They don't form boisterous packs or engage in elaborate social rituals like wolves or lions. Instead, their lives are a testament to self-reliance, strategic patience, and an acute, continuous awareness of their surroundings. Every moment is spent processing information, assessing threats, and identifying opportunities. Observe a wildcat in its natural habitat, perhaps at dusk or dawn, when its activity peaks. It moves with an almost ethereal grace, its padded paws barely disturbing a leaf, its body low to the ground. Its eyes, sharp, amber, and piercing, constantly scan every shadow, every rustle in the undergrowth, every tremor in the air. It doesn't rush into an attack. It waits, sometimes for an hour or more. It observes its prey from a distance, calculating the wind direction, the distance, the most opportune moment. This isn't laziness. It's a profound, instinctual drive for efficiency, energy conservation, and ultimate survival. Every movement is deliberate, every pause pregnant with purpose, a testament to a mind that is constantly, quietly at work. Their chosen dwelling places, their dens, are often meticulously hidden, tucked away in rock crevices, beneath the gnarled roots of ancient trees, or deep within dense thickets. These are not grand, conspicuous homes, but secure, unseen sanctuaries that offer protection and a vantage point without revealing their presence. They are fiercely territorial, yet they mark their boundaries subtly, through scent markings rather than overt aggression or physical confrontation, preferring to avoid direct conflict when possible. When truly confronted or threatened, they can be surprisingly fierce and aggressive, but their primary strategy for dealing with the world is often evasion, patient observation, and a mastery of concealment. They prefer to watch, to learn, to understand the patterns and weaknesses of their world and its inhabitants before ever making a definitive move. Consider their sophisticated hunting technique. A wildcat won't expend precious energy chasing every potential meal it sees. It will first identify a target, a mouse scuttling through the grass, a rabbit foraging near a bush. Then, with incredible patience, it will use the natural terrain and its own impeccable camouflage to get into the optimal striking position. It might spend a significant amount of time simply watching, understanding its prey's habits, anticipating its next move, perhaps even waiting for the exact moment the prey is distracted. This silent, meticulous observation, coupled with a powerful, coiled readiness that is entirely concealed until the last possible second, makes the wildcat a formidable and highly successful predator. It embodies a kind of watchful, patient intensity, a hidden strength that resonates deeply with the quiet internal nature of hidden envy in the human experience. The wildcat's existence is a masterclass in living unseen, yet profoundly aware and impactful. Now that we've delved into the subtle realm of hidden envy and the elusive world of the wildcat, it's time to forge the compelling link between them. The parallels aren't just poetic. They highlight a deep, instinctive thread that connects the animal's survival strategies to our own complex emotional landscape. The way a wildcat operates in its environment offers a startlingly clear mirror to how hidden envy manifests within the human psyche. Consider the wildcat's observation from a distance. It doesn't rush in, doesn't confront directly. Instead, it carefully watches its prey, its rivals, or even potential threats from the safety of concealment. This is precisely how hidden envy often operates. We observe someone else's success, their perceived happiness, or their achievements, not head-on, but from a metaphorical distance. We scroll through social media feeds, listen to anecdotes about colleagues, or simply witness a friend's good fortune. There's a subtle internal monitoring, a quiet assessment of what they possess and what we lack or wish we had. This isn't an open declaration of desire. It's a private, often unacknowledged comparison that takes place in the mind's quiet corners. Just as the wildcat is cautious and silent, hidden envy thrives in silence. It rarely expresses itself overtly. Instead, it's a feeling that's often suppressed, even from ourselves, because acknowledging it can feel shameful or uncomfortable. We might offer a polite compliment, a forced smile, while internally a silent critique or a wistful longing takes root. The outward demeanor remains calm and composed, much like the wildcat perfectly still amidst the foliage. But underneath, there's an intense, focused awareness of the other. The wildcat's hidden strength and coiled readiness also finds a powerful echo. It's not outwardly aggressive unless provoked or necessary for survival, but its entire being is geared for decisive, impactful action when the moment arises. Similarly, hidden envy, though silent, carries a potent undercurrent. While it doesn't typically lead to physical aggression, it can manifest as subtle, undermining, passive aggression, or a quiet resentment that saps our own energy. It might lead to a quiet joy in another's misfortune, or a subtle resistance to celebrating their victories wholeheartedly. This latent potential for negative impact, though rarely expressed violently, is a form of readiness that parallels the wildcat's predatory instincts. Both the wildcat and the person experiencing hidden envy share a core characteristic. They operate from a place of perceived disadvantage or threat, and their primary response is not direct confrontation, but astute, often unseen, assessment and internal processing. The wildcat is assessing an opportunity for survival. The individual is assessing a perceived threat to their own standing or happiness. In both cases, the behavior is strategic, self-preserving, and deeply ingrained, illustrating how deeply our primal instincts can influence even our most complex and nuanced emotions. The intriguing connection between the wildcat's behavior and human hidden envy isn't merely metaphorical. It's rooted in fundamental principles of psychology and evolutionary biology. While wildcats operate on instinct for survival, our human emotions, including envy, are complex adaptations influenced by both our ancient past and our social present. From a psychological perspective, hidden envy often stems from social comparison theory. This theory, prominently discussed by psychologists like Leon Festinger, posits that we naturally evaluate our own abilities, opinions, and status by comparing ourselves to others. When we perceive someone else as having something we desire, whether it's wealth, beauty, intelligence, or happiness, and we feel a deficit in that area, envy can arise. Hidden envy specifically occurs when this comparison is painful or socially undesirable to admit. Our minds engage in cognitive dissonance reduction, where we try to minimize the discomfort by downplaying the other person's success, finding fault, or simply suppressing the feeling altogether. It's an unconscious defense mechanism to protect our self-esteem, much like the wildcat's instinct to remain unseen to avoid conflict or protect its territory. Moreover, the brain's reward system plays a role. When we witness someone else's success, particularly if it's something we aspire to, it can activate areas of the brain associated with pain or dissatisfaction, rather than pleasure. This isn't about conscious malice. It's a deep-seated reaction to perceived lack. Research in social neuroscience, using fMRI scans, has even shown that observing a rival's misfortune can sometimes activate reward centers in the brain, suggesting a complex interplay between social comparison and our internal reward mechanisms. This isn't a happy feeling in the traditional sense, but rather a subtle sense of relief from the previous discomfort of comparison. From an evolutionary and biological standpoint, the wildcat's cautious, observant nature is a prime example of a highly successful survival strategy. For a solitary predator, energy conservation and risk assessment are paramount. Direct confrontation is costly and dangerous. Therefore, developing acute observational skills, patience, and the ability to strike only when optimal conditions are met were crucial for passing on genes. This speaks to a deeply ingrained biological drive for efficiency and self-preservation. Similarly, our human ancestors likely benefited from a nuanced understanding of their social environment. While overt aggression might have led to ostracization or danger within the group, a quiet awareness of others' resources and status could inform individual strategies for acquiring resources or improving social standing. Envy, in its most primal form, might have served as an internal signal to strive for more, to notice opportunities, or even to recognize threats from rivals. Hidden envy, then, could be seen as a more subtle, less confrontational way of processing these social comparisons, allowing individuals to maintain group harmony while still engaging in internal assessment and subtle competition. Therefore, the wildcat's silent watchfulness and the human experience of hidden envy both speak to an underlying biological imperative to survive and thrive. By intelligently navigating one's environment, whether that environment is a dense forest or a complex social landscape, both involve a sophisticated, often unacknowledged, process of observation, assessment, and internal management of a perceived external reality. Now that we understand the psychological and biological underpinnings of hidden envy and the wildcat's behavior, let's bring these concepts to life with real-world scenarios. These mini-stories will illustrate how the silent, watchful nature of the wildcat mirrors the subtle dance of hidden envy in our daily lives. You'll likely recognize yourself or someone you know in these common situations. The supportive colleague. Imagine Sarah, who has just received a major promotion at work. Her colleague, Mark, approaches her with a big smile, saying, "That's fantastic, Sarah. You totally deserve it." Outwardly, Mark is the picture of support. Yet, inside, a tiny wildcat is observing. Mark has been aiming for that very position, and while he truly respects Sarah's capabilities, a quiet voice in his head whispers, "Why her? I've been here longer, worked just as hard." Later, in a casual conversation with another colleague, Mark might subtly shift the topic to the increased stress and demanding hours of Sarah's new role, not out of malice, but almost as if to gently balance the scales in his own mind. A subtle re-evaluation, much like a wildcat carefully assessing a less appealing prey option after a prime one escapes. He doesn't openly criticize, but his words carry a faint, almost imperceptible undertone of doubt or slight warning, a quiet way of managing his internal disappointment. The happy friend on social media. Consider Anna scrolling through her social media feed. Her friend Julia posts a series of breathtaking photos from her dream vacation to a remote, exotic island. Anna comments, "Looks absolutely incredible. So happy for you." And she means it, mostly. But as she scrolls, a feeling akin to the wildcat's careful watchfulness settles in. Anna herself dreams of such a trip, but has faced financial setbacks. The wildcat in her mind observes Julia's apparent freedom and luxury, comparing it to her own current constraints. Later that day, if someone asks Anna about Julia's trip, she might focus on the long flight, the potential for bad weather, or the cost, rather than dwelling on the sheer beauty of the experience. It's not a deliberate attempt to diminish Julia's joy, but an unconscious way to cope with the pang of unmet desire that the wildcat quietly observed. The concerned family member. Think of Robert, who has just bought his first home after years of saving. At a family gathering, his Aunt Maria congratulates him warmly. "Oh, Robert, that's wonderful. Such a big step," she exclaims. Yet, as the conversation continues, Maria, whose own housing situation is less stable, might inquire about the interest rates, the property taxes, or the potential for unexpected repairs. Her questions, while seemingly innocuous and even genuinely concerned, stem from a hidden wildcat observing Robert's milestone. She isn't actively wishing him ill, but the questions serve to explore the downsides or potential traps of his success. Perhaps to lessen the contrast with her own situation, much like a wildcat meticulously studying every aspect of its prey, not just its appealing features, but also its vulnerabilities. Our internal monologue might sound like, "It's great, but it must come with so much responsibility. I guess my simpler life isn't so bad." In each of these scenarios, the hidden envy doesn't manifest as overt hostility or sabotage. Instead, it's expressed through subtle verbal cues, shifts in focus, or internal narratives that reframe the other's success. It's the silent observation, the careful assessment, and the quiet internal processing, the very essence of the wildcat's cautious, hidden nature playing out in the intricate social dynamics of human interaction. Understanding the wildcat's silent watchfulness and its parallel in our own hidden envy offers more than just fascinating insight. It provides powerful lessons for self-awareness and personal growth. By recognizing the subtle currents of this emotion, we can move from being unconsciously driven by it to consciously navigating our inner world. One of the most crucial lessons is that acknowledgement is the first step toward freedom. Just as the wildcat cannot ignore its primal instincts for survival, we cannot simply wish away hidden envy. Suppressing or denying it only gives it more power, allowing it to fester and subtly influence our thoughts and behaviors. When we feel that pang of discomfort observing someone else's success, instead of immediately masking it, we can pause and acknowledge it. Ah, this is that feeling. I'm wishing I had that too. This simple act of naming the emotion, without judgment, disarms much of its potential harm. It allows us to step outside of the immediate emotional reaction and observe it, much like the wildcat observes its environment before making a move. Furthermore, the wildcat teaches us about focused observation rather than destructive comparison. The wildcat observes its prey not out of resentment, but out of a need to understand and strategize for its own survival. Similarly, when we observe others' successes, instead of letting it trigger hidden envy, we can consciously shift our focus. What can we learn from their journey? What qualities or actions led to their achievement? Can their success inspire us to develop our own strategies and skills rather than wishing we were them? This transforms a potentially negative emotional response into a catalyst for personal development. It redirects the wildcat's gaze from coveting what is theirs to identifying opportunities for our own growth. The wildcat's solitary nature also reminds us of the importance of our own path. While it's natural to compare, fixating on others' trajectories can distract us from our unique journey. Hidden envy often arises when we feel we're behind or less than. By understanding that everyone has their own terrain to navigate, their own challenges to overcome, and their own strengths to leverage, we can cultivate a stronger sense of self-worth, independent of external validation. Just as the wildcat trusts its own instincts within its territory, we can learn to trust our own capabilities and define success on our own terms. Ultimately, understanding hidden envy through the lens of the cautious wildcat is an invitation to greater self-compassion and authenticity. It's about recognizing a deeply human, often uncomfortable facet of our emotional lives without succumbing to it. By acknowledging this hidden part of ourselves, we can choose to react with intention rather than instinct. We can transform that quiet observation into a source of inspiration, growth, and a deeper appreciation for both our own journey and the diverse tapestry of human experience. It is a step towards living with more integrity, both with ourselves and with others, by taming the wildcat within, not by suppressing it, but by understanding its true nature and redirecting its powerful energy.